You are now entering That One Studio for the What Are You Made Of show with your host, Mike C-Roc, and his guest, who will be sharing what they're made of. The journey to success has been invisible until now. Sit back, relax, get your notepad ready, and enjoy the show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, guys. Calm down. You guys been drinking tonight, man? You got a little extra rowdy tonight. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to That One Studio, the What Are You Made Of show. It's your boy C-Roc. I'm back with another great guest to share the journey to success, which we all know is invisible. And I've been doing this since, 4 years now. I can't believe it. Time flies.
Amazing.
But we want to continue to bring you great guests to share with you that you're not alone when you go through adversity. You're not alone when you have to push through, and sometimes you don't wake up, you don't feel like waking up and doing what you need to do. You just got to keep going. And I want to continue to show you successful people that have done that so that you, the listener, the community member, can keep going and understand that thrust is a must when you don't feel like it. So today's guest I have in the building, Dr. Justin Dubin. He is men's health specialist, male infertility, sexual medicine, Memorial Healthcare System doctor. He's also the co-host of the Man Up podcast. He's hailing out of, I feel like I'm a boxing announcer, hailing out of South Florida. Dr. Justin Dubin's in the building. What's happening, man?
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me on. It's really an honor. I've been listening for a while, and it's just really great stories to motivate us, to get through that day. Sometimes you have a rough day, and it's always really nice to hear people who go through it and come out the other end. It's just a really nice reminder that, we're all going through it together. Keep your head up, keep grinding. And, good things are going to come. So I really appreciate what you're doing here and appreciate the podcast a lot, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you. So we start the show the same way every time because I get off track pretty easily. So I make sure I stick to some kind of structure. And then that is with the question, what are you made of?
Well, I think I'm going to take this from almost a literal standpoint at first. I'm going to say, like you and I, we're all the same, I think, and we're all made of flesh, blood, bone. But really what keeps my blood flowing is this idea of destigmatizing health conversations, educating men about their health, motivating them to improve the quality of their own lives and their partners' lives. Because what's going on right now more than ever is, guys are searching, trying to find answers outside without actually talking about it. They're kind of making these conversations their own by going online, doing research, which I always encourage, but sometimes they're not talking with their friends. They're not talking with their family. They're not talking with healthcare providers. And this is where problems can really happen. And, your health, when we're talking about grinding and working hard and getting everything done, sometimes you can't overcome some of those problems if you're not mentally right, you're not physically right. And part of my goal as a men's health physician is to help people become their best selves, just like you're doing here on this podcast, helping people to understand the things that they need to get through, or how to bust their ass, how to grind, how to get through it. I'm here to make sure that you're not alone on this journey of your health journey. And sometimes for guys, it's really hard to discuss these topics because a lot of the things when we're talking about energy, sexual health, testosterone, these are things that men identify as manliness, right? And when these things go wrong, sometimes you don't want to really admit that maybe you're not as manly as you used to be or not as manly as you're feeling. But I can get you back there if you just talk with your healthcare provider. So that's kind of what really gets me going. It gets me jacked up, as you can see.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right. So let me ask you a question. Where did it all start for you? How did you get into men's health of all things? Like as a kid, did you know you wanted to be a doctor, number one? And number two, when you decided a doctor, did you know what kind of doctor? When did you decide to go into men's health?
So, no one in my family has ever been outside of college. Both my grandparents on one side were immigrants, entrepreneurs. My other side, entrepreneurs. My dad was the first one out of both sides of the family to ever graduate from college in Queens. I'm from New Jersey originally. And for whatever reason, I just really liked the idea. I always grew up, I was always using my hands. My first job, I worked at an ice factory actually when I was like 13. I did demolition, I did pizza delivery. I never liked the idea of like working behind a desk. I always liked using my hands, fixing things, doing things. I enjoyed that instant gratification, and I enjoyed working with people. And eventually I had this progression where I wanted to do medicine. I really liked the idea of working with people and people telling me their most intimate secrets and issues, things they don't even talk about their friends or family with. And I thought that was such an incredible honor to be given and to try to help people. So I did decide to go into medicine, and I went to Johns Hopkins undergrad as a pre-med and biology major. And at that time, I thought I wanted to do orthopedics. I was a big football guy. I was an all-state inside linebacker. And I was doing a lot of research in orthopedic surgery at Johns Hopkins. And as that process happened, I ended up applying for med school. And once again, no one in my family had ever done anything like this. And I didn't really have great guidance, even though I was at Hopkins, And the first time I didn't get into med school, didn't even get one interview. I had no idea what I was doing. And that crushed me. And I was pretty broken down, and I had to reevaluate. I was like, do I really want to keep going this path? Do I double down, invest in myself, or do I just kind of settle? And I said, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. I took 2 years off after I graduated from college. I worked in New York City, but I commuted from New Jersey about an hour and a half each way. I couldn't afford to actually even live in New York. I lived with my parents, and I got offered 2 jobs. I got one as a clinical research coordinator at Cornell in the Upper East Side of Manhattan as a clinical research coordinator in urology. And then I got offered one at Sloan Kettering as a clinical research coordinator in urology. Had no idea what the hell urology was. And I was like, sounds like I'm going to be doing some research in urology. I took the one at Cornell. I thought it was a better experience for me, both incredible experiences. I was very honored to be part of that. And, I just really fell in love with urology. I was doing bladder cancer, prostate cancer, kidney cancer research for the most part, but I just really found the specialty interesting. And I ended up getting into Rutgers Medical School 2 years later. I'm a New Jersey guy, so I went back to Jersey. And I was deciding between ortho and urology. And one thing that I found, and I give advice to medical students, is when you're going through this process, it's kind of crazy. You have 2 years of studying, and then you have 2 years of 1 year of clinicals, and you have to decide within sometimes you have a 2-week exposure, sometimes you have a 6-week exposure of a specialty. You have to decide your whole life based off of that short amount of time. I was fortunate enough to, have a lot of orthopedic experience and urology research experiences as well, but it's hard. And so when I came to a decision, I honestly think both of them are fantastic, and I love certain aspects of both of them. When it came down to it, I said, what are the bread and butter things it's not that I love everything. I can pick a thing I can love, but what are the things I like the least about it, and can I tolerate it the most? Because there's going to be shit days, there's going to be bad days. And if I like that bad thing more than I like the other bad thing, I'm going to choose that. And at the end of the day, I chose urology. So I went to University of Miami, where I did my residency. And I had some great mentorship there. Dr. Ranjith Ramasamy was my mentor over there. And so he was a men's health specialist. I knew him from Cornell. And I really got into men's health, male infertility, sexual medicine. And the question was why? Well, most medicine, we're talking about preventing death, right? Do this so you don't die, do this so you don't get sick. I love the idea of the opposite. We're going to do something to improve your quality of life. I'm going to make your sex life better. I'm going to make your energy better. I'm going to make your drive better. I'm going to help you try to have a kid with your partner. You're impacting sometimes not just one person, 2 people, sometimes 3 if you're helping create a life. So I just found that so amazing and so satisfying. I ended up doing a fellowship at Northwestern in Chicago under the mentorship of Dr. Brannigan, Dr. Bennett, and Dr. Halpern. And I just had such a wonderful experience in Chicago. I saw an opportunity. I came back down here. So, it's been a long journey, a lot of grinding. I've really only been out after over 10 years of school. I've only been practicing by myself for about a year now.
Damn.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Did you ever second guess yourself when you got into it? After the third year when you're on your own?
I think
I should have been a gynecologist, or I should have been... There's never a day that goes by you think that, Man, it'd be nicer to. No, I'm just kidding. I'm ornery, man. I apologize if
No,
you're like
no,
really
no,
like,
I
like
appreciate it.
professional
No,
all the
come on.
time, but
No, I can be very unprofessional. I mean, the way I like to talk is this way, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
when we're talking about men's health stuff, I want to be your buddy. I want to be like, I want
Yeah.
it to be approachable. Like we're having a beer at a bar. If I come in and I'm like, "Hello, sir, how are your erections today?" I don't think it's just going to work. I just don't
Right,
think
right.
you're going to want to talk to me. But yeah, I mean, listen. I think it's such a long process. We're talking years, and listen, that's just one career. And you know, Mike, you've been through it. You've been doing this for years. There's always parts where you have doubt. Did I go through the right path? Am I doing the right thing? But I think that's just part of the process. You know, there's bad days, and how do you make up for the bad days? I think sometimes you just got to understand there's going to be bad days, and you look for those bright, good days. And when you have a great day, you kind of really hold on to it and say, this is what's going, this is what motivates me. It's these kind of moments that keep me going. But, you know,
Yeah.
of course, there's bad days, and you're always going to question yourself.
What's a bad day in urology?
Well, I mean, a bad day, listen, we still deal with life and death. I mostly don't deal with life and death, but, you know, for some things, for me, as a male fertility doctor, there's something called azoospermia. So some men, about 1% of men, have no sperm in their ejaculate. Sometimes we know, sometimes we don't know why.
It's really 1%. Like I would have thought it would be lower than that. That's wild.
Well,
1 out of 100.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm sorry. 1% of men with fertility issues. I apologize.
Okay.
So not 1% of all men. I don't apologize.
See, I'm a
Sorry,
good listener.
I apologize.
I'm a good listener.
Yes, that's a good. Thank you for the correction. 1% of men with fertility issues have no sperm. It's not common. It's not common by any means. Now there's different reasons, but if it's something called non-obstructive azoospermia, to put it, you're just not producing sperm, or when you ejaculate, you have no sperm in your ejaculate. And everything else seems normal. Sometimes what we have to do is called a microtesy or a testicular sperm extraction, where I take a surgical microscope, I open your testicle, it's a surgery, and I try to explore using a microscope, trying to find tissue that I think has viable sperm. Now, as much technology as we have, and as good as we are, I can only give these couples about a 50% success rate of finding sperm.
Gotcha.
And a bad day is when I don't find sperm. Right?
Can you see sperm in a microscope that you're using there? Or is it too small? Is it smaller than that?
So there's two microscopes. I have a surgical microscope where I what we call bivalve the testicle, where I make an incision in the testicle, and I'm looking at the seminiferous tubules, which is the tissue where the sperm develop in the testicle. And some of it looks fuller and looks healthier, and I can identify. And I take some of that out and I process it, and I look at it under a bench regular microscope, and I look under that microscope for sperm. Okay. So when I don't find sperm, and this happens, right? 50% of the time, I can't, these are things, unfortunately, you can't control. The best surgeons may not find sperm, right? And those are bad days, because even though I say I'm not dealing with life or death, you are telling this couple, biologically, you're probably not going to be able to achieve a pregnancy. And these are things that are really hard, obviously, for them to take, not great for me to deliver, but you feel for these people. It's sad. It's unfortunate, but there are other options. I will tell you, most people, you can do donor sperm, you can adopt, you can do all this stuff. When that kid comes, it's their kid. But still, in that moment, it's never an easy day. But there's other days where you find sperm, and you're grateful that, you're helping this couple create a family. And so that surgery specifically can be the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. There's literally no in between. So you're riding a roller coaster on those kinds of days. And you can do two a day. One, you find something, one you don't. You're like, shit, this sucks.
Oh man. Yeah, I see that now. Or also prostate cancer do you do those diagnoses and all that kind of stuff too?
Yeah. So I do diagnose prostate cancer. My partners are the ones that usually treat, but I guide people through that process of, hey, your PSA, prostate specific antigen, which is a protein that, your prostate makes. It's the only thing that is made by, it's only organ that makes PSA. And if that's elevated, we started, the guidelines change. Men between 40 and 45, if you have a higher risk, can start screening themselves for this. Or if you're 45 or to 50, you should talk with your doctor about, screening yourself for prostate cancer. And all it is you don't need a finger in the butt anymore. We just do a blood test. And I know that's one thing that scares a lot of guys. We call that the urologist handshake, but hopefully no more. And yeah, we do. And, you have to counsel people. Hey, listen, this is a number that's concerning to me. We need to do some further investigation, whether it's an MRI or a biopsy. And diagnosing someone with a prostate cancer is never an easy thing. But here's the thing. There's a silver lining in that, right? And this is what I always tell my patients when we're talking about cancer, whether it's testicle cancer, whether it's prostate cancer, bladder cancer, kidney cancer. Hey, listen, I'm sorry that we found this. It sucks. However, we found it and we can do something. We're going to do something about it now. It's not like it's just growing anymore. We know that you have something. We have a plan. We're going to create a plan, and now we're going to take action. So there is some silver lining, or at least how I try to approach the situation in those cases, because it's hard. Fortunately, I've never had cancer. I have family members who have had cancer, but it's just one of those things you hear, and you often need to hear it a couple times. We recommend, you have a partner or a family member with you, because it's a lot to process at that time. So it's never an easy discussion.
Yeah. You're talking about that and the blood work, it's through blood work now, right? And I was just had my blood work done recently, and I was like, shit, did I have PSAs done? I was wondering, like, where would that be? So I probably did, actually, because if they did everything, I probably have a PSA. Oh yeah. PSA. Is it free? PSA free?
I would use total PSA. Free PSA.
Free PSA. Oh, I see.
I would use total PSA.
Specific antigen.
Yes.
0.9.
Beautiful. Anything below 4.0 is good. Okay, so you're good.
46.
Just
46 and a half. All right, man. Hey, listen, guys, I'm not keeping that a secret. HIPAA violation there on my part, not the doc's part. That's totally on me. But
no,
anyway,
I don't have anything. That's you. I can't get in trouble. You said it. I don't even.
So thanks for the diagnosis that I'm good, man. So anyway, let's shift a little bit. We'll go back to men's health in a second, but I want to talk about the business side of things, because a lot of doctors come out in debt, right?
Yeah.
Student loans, all these things, right? And if they don't, do they teach business in those schools?
That's a really, really good question. The answer is no. And
crazy.
I'm going to be honest. I am not the best with numbers. Like, I've been really in the last year, here's the thing. During residency, some of my friends, I would say about 5% of my friends are thinking that business angle during residency and med school. Why? You're in debt. You're not getting, first off, med school, you're not getting paid at all. Residency, you're getting paid, but, I'll give you an example. Recently, they had to, increase the salaries because Miami has become pretty much unaffordable since COVID. So, there was this huge thing where, like, no one could even live here as a resident because the salaries were so low. And this was kind of across the board. And it's been a problem in New York City, in LA. You find these issues. Finances, unfortunately, have not been, it's been stressed to a small degree. There's a great White Coat Investor, is a guy who's very famous in the medical community, who does some really wonderful advice and investments and business aspects and how to, save money. But you're grinding, man. And sometimes it's just really hard to pick your head up and say, what am I doing now? How I'm acting now and how I'm living now is going to impact me 10 years from now. And, the first thing that I always told myself, because you have a jump in your salary from, fellowship or residency to becoming what we call an attending, a practitioner. I try my best to live like a resident because for at least a couple of years. Why?
Yeah.
Because I got to pay a lot of debts, and it's one of those things, like, I've never been delinquent in a payment. As soon as those loans come through, my credit dropped like 150 points. Mm-hmm. It took me a year. I'm back to very good credit, but it took me a year of, slaving at that to get back. And these are things that I was never told about. And, I don't need a fancy car. I don't need, the biggest house or anything. Unfortunately, I'm renting right now, but that's another story for another day. Not great time to buy anything. But yeah, no, there is a business aspect, and when you're coming out of training, there's different approaches you can take, right? There's the academic route, there's the healthcare system route, there's the private route, and there's the private demic route. And some of them are salaried, some of them have incentives, and the incentives may either be, cases, patients, it could be publications. So there's different ways in which you can, be creative and try to incentivize yourself. I'm in a healthcare system. I'm honestly, I'm salaried. I'm fine with that. I think it provides some benefits, some risks. But I'm very happy with my current status.
Yeah, gotcha. And there's nothing in the future in your cards for like having your own practice and then building your own your own
It's
group?
a good question. I think right now, is it always possible? Yes. But what we're learning now is it's really hard. In the landscape of medicine right now, you have a lot of private equity buying out a lot of private practices. You would have to put a lot of money. If I wanted to make my own practice, you got to throw a lot of money into it yourself, right? And there's aspects of it that are great, right? I create my own salary. I control my practice. I dictate what I want. I can charge what I want. But then there's other aspects of it that do I know if I want to deal with? Do I want to, if I go on vacation, I'm losing money. I'm not only just, taking it out of my pocket. Do I want to be dealing with taking the extra time in my busy schedule to worry about budgeting for the office, budgeting for the machines, so there's give and take. And, if you're by yourself, that's a really big responsibility. It's not always easy. But I have a lot of friends who are doing it. There is a shift to concierge medicine, which is a little bit different, which has become, successful for many people. I don't know what's in the cards. And what's great, I have the flexibility as a doctor, contracts are 3 years. I can always make a decision, if I want to do anything. But right now I'm very, very happy with my job. I don't think I want to go anywhere right now.
And what about this? Because you're in podcasting now, right? And podcasting leads to other things. I know you have about 50 some episodes on the Man Up podcast.
Yeah.
And do you go on many other podcasts, like as a guest?
Yes, I have. I've been on several podcasts down here. Coco, Bougie Best Friend she's great. I've been in when I was in Chicago, I was on Barstool, Dog Walk with those guys over there. They're awesome. I've been on a couple other podcasts, but yeah, I've been doing a lot of podcasting, and I do truly love podcasting. And when I'm talking about education and I've been on Shameless Sex. I'm sorry, I'm going to shout them out. I'm going to shout out You Are Not Broken, a good friend of mine there. So I've been on a lot of podcasts, whether they're men's health podcasts or just common education or dating or relationships podcasts or just general information. And I do see an avenue and opportunity for myself there personally. I like this aspect, and I think that using my medical knowledge in a podcasting form, what I like is that I can reach more people through this platform and educate them and motivate them to, get the health they need, get the health care they need, go talk to their doctor. It doesn't have to be me. I'm not asking everyone to come to me. I'm asking you to just go talk to someone. Right. And that makes me feel good. I feel like I made a difference.
Reason I asked is that because there's definitely an avenue for you, because you have it, I don't know if you know this, but you have it where you could go out and be an influencer, thought leader in that realm, a celebrity in your space, so to speak, right? Is that something that interests you, but so that you wouldn't have to practice all the time, and maybe there's a way to use what you've done, right, and then make more money and have greater impact to the masses?
Oh man, listen, I would love that. Absolutely, I would love that. That's great. That would be a dream. But that comes with time, right? You got to develop yourself. You got to build yourself. I also like practicing. I like seeing patients at the same time. Like I said, I like using my hands, but I have truly over the years really loved podcasting. And I had some practice for 10 years, my best friend and I, we used to have a film podcast. I'm a big cinephile. And so we just did it. We didn't advertise it. It was just once a week for 10 years we did it. And I
Damn.
learned a lot that time. You know, COVID hit, we stopped doing it. He has a couple kids, and we were like, it's time. But you know, I learned a lot. I learned about how to speak because I listened to myself. I learned about how to think a bit more critically, how to describe things a little bit better. I'm not saying I'm great, but I think all of that time and all that practice kind of prepared me for this medical space and this podcasting space, which I'm really enjoying doing right now. And I would love, and I hope, and with my podcast and collaborating with other podcasters and podcasts like yours, you know, I hope this is in my future. I would really love this. It's something I truly enjoy. I'm really, really passionate about.
Well, listen, I'm a doctor of causing and creating futures. So let me tell you something. You don't need to hope. Hope is for I don't know who that's for. We just do it. Like
You're right.
in my world, we cause and create. So we think about what we want to do, and then we fucking go get it. That's how
I love
we do
that.
it.
Listen.
Okay,
my
so-
grandfather, he used to say, you can wish in one hand and shit in the other and see
Yep.
which one fills up first.
Exactly.
So I agree 100%
Yeah,
with
yeah,
what
let's
you're
do it.
saying. I'm
Yeah.
doing it. We're doing it. I mean,
Yeah, there you go.
But
There you go.
yeah, listen, I understand it may take time. I'm here. I'm doing it. I'm putting in the time. I'm putting in the effort. It has really become a priority of mine. You know, right now we're recording. I just bought a new setup. I haven't set it up yet. You know, we got new camera, all this stuff. I just didn't want to mess up, like try it out on this podcast and mess up the footage or anything for you. So literally
been
tonight
cool
we're
with
going
it.
to play around with it.
Yeah, no,
So,
I'm the most laid back podcast host. I remember when I first started my podcast, or I started going on other people's shows, I would get these things from them, and they're like, please make sure that there's nobody in your area, in your vicinity, and it's a very quiet room, all this other shit. I'm like, when I don't know what Kim sends out, my ops manager, but like, I don't give a shit. As long as you show
she's
up and I
great.
can hear
She's
you.
great.
Yeah. Like, I'm the most laid back dude. And you know, I just feel like it's so funny. Some people are so anal about it. But anyway, let's get back to men's health for a second.
Yeah,
I want to touch on a couple things. Now, everything, you know, with AI coming out in technology, things change so fast, right?
Absolutely.
Is it like that in the medical field too, and finding out like what guys could be eating and not eating and doing and not eating? Like, is it advancing as quick as AI is in technology?
So it's a great question. And this is one thing, especially in what I'm talking about with men's health, and you obviously get it is so fast because the internet cannot, you know, sometimes can't keep up with the internet. And the problem is this inherently, that things that are said online that, you know, most of the time are not true. Okay. And I'm, you know, and this is an inherent problem with medicine and the way that we are. And it's a problem. It is the reality of the situation is that, you know, people talk about a substance or a supplement, and often it takes years, if ever, to prove that that thing actually works. And the one thing that, you know, I did recently, we did this study. It was really, really cool. We looked at men's health information on TikTok and Instagram. Just so you have an idea, there's some really concerning data about, you know, health information online. So about 80% in 2022, 80% of US adults used at least one social media site. 72% of adults used it for researching their health information. And the survey showed that before going to a doctor, 33% of Americans went to YouTube for their health information. 20% went to TikTok to solve their health issues. 37% turned to an influencer for health advice because they felt they were more accessible than doctors. And this is the one thing that really concerned me. 50% of Americans have purchased health products after seeing an ad on social media. I'm one of them. I'm not different, right? And so the problem with this health information online is like, okay, so people are going there. It's not a big deal. Most of it is bad. So we did a study. We looked at men's health topics: testosterone, erectile dysfunction, male infertility, vasectomy, semen retention, and Peyronie's disease. We looked at all these men's health topics, and we looked at Instagram and TikTok to see how accurate the information was. And the majority of it was garbage. The most popular topics had the least accurate information. The most popular hits had the least accurate information. And a lot of it was because most of it was not being given by healthcare providers. So the question you really have to realize is when you're going through this information online, you have to ask yourself, what am I trying to learn? Who am I learning it from? Who is this giving me their information? What's their motivation? Are they trying to educate me? Are they trying to push a certain device, a medicine of some sort? And then what's the next step? Am I going to take this information? Am I going to, use it for myself? Am I going to go talk with some about it? And see if it's a good idea. And you have to be careful. And this also, I'm a fan of Huberman. I don't mind, Joe Rogan, all that stuff. It lets people think critically. And I want people to think critically. But, some of these studies are mice studies. Some of them are other studies. And, sometimes that just doesn't translate to humans. And, I think you have to be careful when you take things like it's the Bible, because people are different. Everyone's different. And I think often before trying things, you should probably talk with someone about it, because that's where I get really worried. And I'm not saying, I'm not poo-pooing things. There is data showing ashwagandha works and all these things can increase your testosterone levels. The problem is, I don't know a good supplement company that these supplement companies are not FDA regulated. I don't know what the hell they're putting in it, right?
Yeah.
There's some studies showing that they put Viagra, Cialis, testosterone in testosterone boosting supplements that are supposed to be natural because they get you the result. They just want you to feel good. No one will ever know what the hell's in it. So you always have to be careful. Another thing that I always, right now that's really hot is testosterone replacement therapy. And I think that this is something that I really want your listeners to get across. I give testosterone a lot for patients because if they need it. Now, we did a study. I was a secret shopper. And what I did was I pretended to be someone who had symptoms of low testosterone. And I went to direct-to-consumer clinics across the country. Direct-to-consumer, these were 7 companies. I'm not going to name their names. I'll never name their names for my own safety. And I pretended to have issues with low testosterone. I got the blood work. And here's the thing that most people don't know about testosterone is that it causes infertility. It kills your sperm.
Wow.
So I see a lot of guys as a fertility doctor and a testosterone doctor, young guys who come in, they say they went to a clinic, they had low T, they were given testosterone, and now they're infertile. They're having trouble having a kid with their partner, and they never were told this. So the biggest thing, if you walk away with one thing, is that testosterone causes infertility. And in my study, I told the companies I wanted to have kids in the future. I did not have kids. I got blood work. My testosterone was completely normal. I'll give you the number. It was 650, which is the low is 300. So I was great. Okay. It's kind of a humble brag. No big deal.
Mine was 618. Is that good for a 46-year-old?
That's great, dude. You're fucking good, dude.
How about free testosterone? Does that matter?
So it's a great question. So
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I know where you left off. So go ahead, keep going.
No. I'll answer that quickly. No, you're great. So free testosterone and total testosterone. Total testosterone is all the testosterone in your body. Free testosterone is the available testosterone. You can also see bioavailable testosterone. The difference between free testosterone and bioavailable testosterone is that SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin, binds to testosterone. And what happens is it makes it not able to be used. Free T is really a calculation of the SHBG, that non-SHBG bound testosterone. That's the one that's free, that's you be able to be used.
Gotcha.
But another small percent is albumin that also binds. And that's where they remove the albumin and they get the bioavailable testosterone. And those are the numbers. Okay. Now, per our urology guidelines, we use total testosterone. There's a lot of controversy right now. Endocrine Society uses free testosterone. I try to get a feel, guidelines are guidelines. I try to follow the urology guidelines, but
Gotcha.
I digress. My testosterone was normal, and I was offered by 6 of the 7 companies testosterone, despite saying I wanted to have children, and despite having a normal testosterone. So once again, you have to understand that there are risks and benefits to these things. Testosterone is a great drug if you need it, but not everyone needs it. And there are side effects, right? So, you have to be careful out there. You have to know the risks and benefits before jumping into something, because if you're on testosterone long enough, you may not be able to recover your sperm. You may not be able to, get back to your normal T levels. So, education and understanding is really important. And then you brought up ChatGPT, where there's a lot of new studies coming out where we're looking at, is the information on ChatGPT good for, people to go off of, right? Like if I look at, is ChatGPT, if I've searched, tell me about testosterone in young men and why there's a decline, right? And what I've found in this, just this is anecdotally, but there is a study coming out that in general, the data is okay. But the problem that we find is sometimes Chat GPT will list a study, and I can't find that study. I don't know if it exists. And this has been consistently a thing. So like if it lists a study, I challenge you to go find that study, because oftentimes I haven't been able, and I know how to find a study. I can't find the study. And I'm not the only person that said that. So I think you always have to take these things with a grain of salt, and if you have a question about your health, I encourage you to do your research. I think it's great. I want you to have a thought about your health and you're thinking about your health. That means that you're really, wanting to do better. But if it's something where you have to do an intervention for, I really want you to talk to a healthcare provider. I want you to really think about the risks and benefits before doing any of these things. And that's where I come in, and that's where like things like my podcast, there's some really great resources out there. Like, Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, they have great websites that are legit, accurate information. There's for testosterone, we have the smsna.org, Sexual Medicine Society of North America, which I'm on the executive committee and for education and social media education. So there's a lot of legitimate websites that you can get online, but you got to find them, and you can ask your healthcare provider for them as well.
Yeah, I was offered testosterone at 6'18", 46 years old, and I was like, I don't know if I need it, because I need something that doesn't like give me an erection all the time. Like, I don't know, and my muscles are fine. I'm strong in the gym. Like, I
mean, with testosterone, your levels, I don't really, so here's the thing, to define testosterone, you have to have hypogonadal symptoms, right? You have to have low energy, libido, erectile, like these are symptoms, but
yeah.
Testosterone is not always the cure for all, right? If you have diabetes, if you're obese, there are other factors that can make you feel like shit, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, but these are also risk factors for having low testosterone, but that doesn't mean that they necessarily, you do have low testosterone.
Right.
So it's complicated.
Well, what you were saying earlier about being online and social media. So what you're saying is that what I saw on TikTok the other day about masturbating with your socks on by themselves, watching Yellowstone and eating popcorn does not lower your risk of prostate cancer.
And that does sound fun, though. That sounds really good.
I saw it, though. I don't know. But I told my wife, I'm like, you believe this shit? Because she likes Yellowstone, so maybe she could sit there and watch Yellowstone while I'm doing that.
I got to catch up on Yellowstone, by the way. I'm like a season behind, but it's a great show.
Yeah, it's a great show.
There is, regarding masturbation, there was a study showing that if you masturbated more or you ejaculated more than 20 times a month, it decreases your risk of prostate cancer. A lot of people swear by that. I just, there's always context when we're talking about studies. We can't quantify how much that really reduces it.
Yeah,
Will it really reduce it? I don't know. Should you be trying to ejaculate 20 times?
Well, I know, but what's the risk too? Because sometimes it's a mental thing too. It takes away from your drive.
100%. 100%.
That's true.
Some people see that, they go, oh my God, I got to stop. I got to just ejaculate every day, and I'll never have cancer. That's not really how it works. And that's why statistics and understanding statistics and data is actually very important. And some of it's very complicated, right? Like I'm not 100% right. But if you think about this, right, say some cancer causes, you have some cancer that's 1 in 100,000 people get this cancer. And then you have some intervention that says, okay, now it goes from 1 in 100,000 to 0.5 in 100,000 if you ejaculate 20 times a month. That's technically halving your risk of cancer, but what's the relative decline of it? It's not significant. So you have to understand statistics to some degree to really understand, but you have headlines where in the media, and this is now, we're all clickbaiting, right? It's not the journalist's fault where they're trying to get clicks and they say this is either going to make you kill you, it's going to make you live longer, or doubling your life, halvening your life. So you have to. There's always context with this.
And that's the porn sites putting that out there to increase their viewership. Like they put out this news, they're paying for that shit. So look, you got this podcast. Let's wrap this up here with this podcast. Let's talk about the podcast, and you and I believe it's Dr. Chu, right? Dr. Chu,
Dr. Kevin Chu.
Yeah.
So the Man Up podcast, I've been doing it for about 2 years with Dr. Chu. Kevin and I are very, very good friends. We did residency at University of Miami together. He stayed at University of Miami, did his fellowship in what I do, male infertility and sexual medicine. He's out in LA, so he's in private practice in LA, a little bit different practice than mine. So if you're in LA, feel free to reach out to him. He's fantastic. We've been doing it for 2 years. We are busy, so we've been doing it every 2 weeks. I wish it was weekly. At some point, hopefully we do it weekly. But basically our idea is, we talk about men's health topics and we bring in specialists. Sometimes it's just us talking. Sometimes it's a specialist. And we've talked about fertility, testosterone. We have some more testosterone. We're recording tonight a semen episode, just talking about semen and sperm and understanding how you can optimize those parameters and understanding semen analyses. And it's really great. And we've gotten a lot of feedback, a lot of good feedback. And I really welcome you guys to listen. We try to be as, as informative as we can and be as informal as possible. We try to make it a very casual and understanding conversation. And we're on, the Man Up Pod. We're on Instagram at the Man Up Pod, TikTok at the Man Up Pod, YouTube. You can subscribe and download us at Spotify, iTunes, and Prime, Amazon, all those places. So any following, really appreciated.
Let's go. Let's support Dr. Justin, guys. Thank you so much for being here, man. It was a good conversation. I could talk longer. We could have a lot of fun with these conversations, man. But I really appreciate your time.
Hey, man, this was really great. Like I said in the beginning, real honor. I really love hearing the stories that you get people to come in and talk about. Really glad that I got to be part of this. Thank you so much.
All right, brother. Thank you. And thank you all for listening or watching wherever you are consuming this content. I appreciate you. Appreciate your support. Keep coming back. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share with your friends and family. And until next time, it's your boy C-Roc. Be that one. C-Roc in the building. Thrust is a must.